I think each boat is transmitting something like 30,000 pieces of information per second.
Yeah, there's 800 sensors on each F50. That produces about 3,000 data outputs a second, so it's over 1 billion in a 90-minute broadcast window.
Hi everyone, Mike Sievert here. Thanks for joining another episode of Sidekicks Conversations. We're back right here at the Sidekicks pub at T-Mobile's headquarters, and I am excited to talk to somebody who's doing some really cool work. And it's work that T-Mobile is honored to support. I'm joined today by Russell Coutts, CEO of SailGP and one of the Uncarrier's most recent partners. SailGP is an international sailing league where teams compete in Grand Prix style all around the globe. As their exclusive US 5G provider, T-Mobile is providing technology so that SailGP teams can seamlessly transmit massive amounts of high-speed, low-latency data from sea to shore, taking the sport to a whole new level. Russell Coutts is an Olympic gold medalist. He holds multiple world championship titles, 5 America's Cup titles, and since 2018, the title of CEO. So welcome, Russell.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here.
So let's just get started right off the bat. SailGP is a team sport played at highway speeds out on the water, and these boats use hydrofoils to fly over the surface of the water. That means things are happening at split-second speeds. The athleticism to get that accomplished must be amazing. I mean, when you're describing SailGP to somebody for the first time, how do you describe it to them?
Yeah, well, it's what I'd say is it's totally different to the normal picture of a sailboat. You know, when people think of a sailboat, they think of white triangles on a blue background with maybe a gin and tonic in your hand, relaxing on a Saturday afternoon, you know. And that's about as far from this property as you could get. You know, these boats, when you look inside the cockpit of these boats, they're more like looking at an aircraft or a spaceship. One of the sailors is called a flight controller, and they adjust the flight of the boat above the water because the boat isn't even sitting in the water, it's sitting on hydrofoils. So that's why it does 4 times the speed of the wind. And what I'll tell you is you see it on video, and it's impressive, but you see it live and you hear the sound of the foil cutting through the water. It actually sounds like a jet engine. It's got this really high-pitched squeal, and you see that, and you see the sailors running across the boat. So it's a highly coordinated team effort. It's pretty incredible.
How fast is the fastest speeds that you've recorded?
Well, the fastest speed is like 99.4 kilometres per hour. So unfortunately, I'm a Kiwi, so we talk in metrics, but that's about 62.
Yeah.
62, and we're designing new foils at the moment. They'll be doing 70 miles per hour, something like that, which on water feels like probably 200 miles per hour on land. You know, it's.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So this is all that's all happening at these athletes are controlling these boats in split-second timing, making split-second decisions on boats that are essentially identical, and they're being fed massive amounts of data to help with this, but all the controls are manual, so that they are controlling the boat and having to race the boat. I mean, it seems like you're transforming this sport from a sport that appealed to sailors before into a sport that is all about racing.
The cool thing about this is it's engaging people that haven't even been on a sailboat before. So we're increasing our viewership dramatically. We increased our viewership in season 2 by 220%. That certainly wasn't a sailing audience. Then we reset targets for this year, and we said, okay, what's the stretch target? We'll double the audience, right? That would be a stretch target. Well, in our first 3 events, we doubled the audience. So then we said, well, now what? We've got to set some new targets, you know? Let's stretch it a little bit more, or a lot more, you know? So we're clearly now, we've moved from being the sport that was slow, hard to understand, elite, not really able to be engaged by your general fan to one that now is very able to be connected. We race it close to shore. With the tech, of course, the data's all in the open. So we can allow people to access the technology, improves their understanding, which is a really cool feature.
So this makes it different than some other racing leagues. I mean, people have compared SailGP to Formula One because of the massive amounts of data and how technologically advanced it is. And yet, in this league, everybody gets the data. There's no secrets. In other words, your telemetry might not just be about your boat, but you can receive the telemetry on your competitor's boat.
Yeah, so what that gives us is it gives us a tremendous ability to tell the stories behind why things are happening. And the fans themselves can access the data that they want to see. If you're a French fan and you want to view the cameras and the audio off the French boat, you can access that through our app.
You went from being a world-leading athlete in your space to a CEO of a global sporting league. Is it tapping different skills inside you? Is coaching a team at a league like this as CEO different from coaching a team as an athlete or being part of a team as an athlete? Or are the skills that you're drawing on actually pretty similar to the skills you use to become a champion?
I think some of the skills are the same. You get a lot of things out of high-level sports like the work ethic, the constant improvement, the teamwork. I was a big advocate for creating a real team in some of the early teams that I was involved with, from people from different parts of the world, because you're dealing with scientists, engineers, people in manufacturing, boat builders, sailmakers. You're dealing with a diverse group of people, all from different backgrounds, different educations and so forth, but they're all absolutely vital to the success of the team. And so and if one of those cogs in the wheel breaks down, of course the whole thing starts to implode. So I've got to say I'm super impressed with from what I've seen of the culture here, for example, and I liken that to some of the teams that I've been involved with. And it's a winning culture in a way. It's that culture of inclusivity. It's allowing people to have a voice. Some years ago, we went to a remote broadcast operation, and we were the first ones to do it. And I'm not trying to brag here, but after that, a lot of other sports entities like Formula One and others came to us and said, well, how did you do that? How can we do it? But the actual original idea from that wasn't from anyone in broadcast. It was actually one of the ladies that works in our office, and she was looking at us flying all these people around the world, and she was saying, well, on site, some of these people aren't even close to, they're sitting in a container somewhere, so why are we flying them around the world? Can't we do this a different way? So the next step was, hey, well, why are we flying our umpires around the world? And so it was just a different way of thinking. And at first, everyone sort of thought, oh, this is a pain in the butt, but over time, it ended up saving us money and producing a better outcome.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, the outcome. I mean, the fan experience, for example, getting back to the data and the connectivity, right? Because what you're just describing is something T-Mobile's really proud to be involved in now and helping to connect all these boats and the studios and so forth. I think each boat is transmitting something like 30,000 pieces of information per second back from ship to shore. That's unbelievable. So obviously our network provides that connectivity. How does that affect the fans' experience, and how does it affect the athletes' experience? And then maybe I'll ask you also, where do you see it all headed in the future? But first, how's it changing the sport?
There's 800 sensors on each F50. That produces about 3,000 data outputs a second. So it's over a billion data outputs in a 90-minute broadcast window. And that gets fired up to the Oracle Cloud, and that's sound, camera, and all of the performance data. And all of that's wireless. We don't have cables connecting our computers or our microphones or our cameras. So
everything's broadcast back to the data in the cloud, the data center in the cloud, using T-Mobile 5G cameras. All the telemetry is being sent back, and then the fans can learn what's happening in the sport, right? I mean, it informs the fans' experience.
Nowadays, with the machine learning tools, those insights can be generated instantaneously, live, without any human bias, is the way I would describe it, So which is pretty cool as well. And not only that, the coaches can get that information live. So the information might be going from San Francisco to London, back to the coach in San Francisco, So the latency is really key, obviously, because they're seeing that live. And it actually does go back onto the boats live, so they can actually look at each other's data if they've got time, because they've got a fair bit on when they're driving the boats at those speeds and you've got boats crossing each other.
We can also hear their comms as other people might be analyzing it and giving back them information.
Yeah, well, the coaches can, but you wouldn't want to, if you're on board the boat racing, it's one of the things that we're learning as a new sport, because traditionally the sport didn't allow communications with outside sources. We've opened that right up. And we've said, well, the coach can communicate with the race boat and tell them whatever they want. You know, it's in the public domain anyway. So the coach can communicate. But when you're racing and you're in a tight situation, you might not want to hear the coach in your ear saying, "Hey, they're using slightly different rudder angles to you." I don't want to know that right now. You know. So we're learning about that, or the coaches are. But yeah, it's really cool technology that enables all of that to happen. And here's another cool thing that we're doing. So we've designed a simulator that actually just went through its initial trials end of last month. And of course, simulators have been around for aircraft and in sailing now for some time. But what's different about this is the architecture's been designed to be in the cloud. Now, why is that significant? Because now it can be accessed from any hub in the world, right? And that will mean that punters will be able to race in the real race in virtual boats.
And test out theories on things that informed by the data of what could make it faster.
Well, they'll be able to race.
Yeah.
Now the real boats won't be able to see the virtual boats, but the virtual boats will be able to see the real boats. And so the real boats obviously won't be racing.
That's amazing.
But for example, you know, you can imagine how cool that is, you know, to a lot of people, you know, a lot of really tech-driven
racing
people.
in the metaverse. Yeah.
But you're racing in a real boat. You're racing, you know, we go to San Francisco, it's the live event. You're starting in the same race that Jimmy Spittle and the others are racing, you know, and you're racing against them and you're seeing whether you can beat them.
Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing to hear the story of how this came about, what it is. It's not surprising that it's rapidly growing, and every season that you've been able to put out is a step change bigger than the last one. I can't see where it goes next. Last question, how do I get out there and go 62 miles an hour on a boat and see what it's like? Are you the guy to call?
Yeah, we could probably arrange that.
Thanks, man, for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
It's so great to see you. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Mike.
And that's Sidekicks Conversations for today. I'll see you again as I chat with other fascinating people right here from Sidekicks Pub at T-Mobile's headquarters. I'm Mike Sievert. Thanks for watching.